Welcome to the NitWits, a weekly roundtable discussion on the Penn State Nittany Lions. Our panel features a longtime Penn State media and NitWits tag team, Neil Rudell of the Altoona Mirror and Mark Brennan of Lions 247 with Fight on State. The NitWits are hosted by WTAJ Sports Director Peter Terpstra, and each week we welcome a former Nittany Lion as our special guest analyst. The NitWits are brought to you by Irwin Financial, Raymond James, an independent firm and a firm foundation for your financial future. By Coldwell Banker, no one will work harder to sell your home. By Courtesy Motor Sales of Altoona, where courtesy means a great deal. By The Allegro, where fine cuisine is a way of life. By Health South, your rehab choice. Health South Altoona, ask for us by name. By Monarch Cleaners, for all your dry cleaning, uniform, and mat rentals. By Reed and Solaney Orthodontics. Doctors Reed and Solaney provide orthodontics for children and adults. By W.S. Lee & Sons, your local food distributor. Go Penn State. By Allegheny Street Cigar. Allegheny Street Cigar, Blair County's only cigar lounge. By McAleer's Plumbing, specializing in plumbing, heating, and air conditioning, serving our community since 1886. By Shields Awards and The Sports Shop. We have a fantastic selection of awards, apparel, and memorabilia at great prices. By Freedom RV. Get ready to tailgate this Penn State football season with Freedom RV Rentals. By Jethro's, serving ribs, steaks, Italian specialties, and the famous Prospector Salad since 1983. Takeouts, delivery, and catering. By Lucky's Beer Distributor. Let Lucky's Beer get you ready for PSU game day. By Remax Results Realty Group. Committed to a culture of professionalism, productivity, and exceptional service. By EasyToUse.com. Your Yellow Pages connection in print and online. By Lions 247 with Fight on State, your online home for Penn State football and recruiting coverage. And by the Altoona Mirror, featuring Penn State Game Day every Friday and Penn State Extra every Sunday.
Welcome to Nittany Nation Overtime.
Welcome to Nittany Nation Overtime. I'm Peter Terpstra, and we are joined by the Nitwits, Neil Rudell, Mark Brennan. We have Bill Conson here, former Penn State offensive lineman, 1982 national champion with Penn State. You're also an author. Welcome to the show.
Back for my second straight year. Glad to be here, fellas.
Good
to see you, Bill.
Penn State lost, if you guys can remember. I mean, it seems like there's so much to unpack. Their first loss of the season to Ohio State, 27-26. Second 1-point loss to Ohio State. And let's get down to a situation real quick. So, final offensive play for Penn State. They have just more than a minute on the clock. Fourth down around midfield to keep the game alive. Down by one, not in field goal range. And then they hand the ball off to the running back. And that seems to be a call that is up for debate.
Well, yeah. I think it's really, what are you doing? Yeah. What are you doing? Your quarterback has just carried you and played as courageously in a big game as anybody that we've ever seen, and particularly running the ball 25 times for 175 yards. 25 really couldn't be stopped. So to start with that call and a lot of the indecision, it seemed to be around it. I just think it's going to be a long couple weeks for the offensive staff to regroup from that.
Yeah, I leave it to Bill to break this down because you're the former player. But what I'll say is, as a journalist, you go through 3 timeouts before that play, and you end up with paralysis by analysis, right? Yep. They overthought the situation. To me, I don't know what play they should have called, but whatever play was called should have been with the ball in Trace McSorley's hands. That's like having Michael Jordan or LeBron James. And Trace McSorley is that player for Penn State. He is that good. He may go down as the best quarterback in Penn State history. You cannot take the ball out of his hands. And he's done it over and over and over. Yeah. And that's the thing that I think is very difficult for people.
You play to your strengths, and obviously Trace McSorley was having a game of his life. Yeah. If he's not now considered a Heisman frontrunner, then I don't know who is. I mean, the guy racked up over 460 yards total offense. You're exactly right. And the fact that they wasted 2 timeouts to talk about this. This may go down as the second most talked about 4th and 5 to the 78 Sugar Bowl. Right now we're all talking about a situation where, now granted, they still had to move the football to get a couple of more first downs and get into field goal range, but every Penn State fan watching this show is questioning that call. We're all dumbfounded by it.
It took away their last breath. And, I was thinking about it today, and I did put on Twitter, the idea that I think it does go back to, in terms of historical significance, to me, this will be remembered in that vein. And even down there, if you can't make 1 yard, you don't deserve it. So, I mean, they tried to go over the top. Maybe they shouldn't in the Sugar Bowl, but this for sure, I don't know, everyone left there just befuddled.
Yeah.
From an X's and O standpoint, it looks like Ohio State did like a stunt and a guy went unblocked, right? I mean, that's what I saw.
Well, to your point, it looked as if after that second timeout, they came out in a different defensive formation to stack an additional player there. And you'd thought that, okay, it has to be a check with me, right? An option kind of choice for McSorley to make, and they ran it right into, and I understand that there was some miscommunication, it may not have been blocked properly, but they ran into that looked like the strength of that defense on that play.
Yeah, listen, you have a first-year offensive coordinator, and I am not going to crush Ricky Ronnie over this because he had been terrific for most of the season. They went into this game averaging 55 points a game, but what I will say is, again, I think sometimes, I guess if you're a Penn State fan, you hope that he learns from this situation. And again, I don't know what play they should have called. I just think they should have had the ball in McSorley's hands. And I'll bet you they end up saying that long term. Hopefully, this is a learning situation because all OCs and all defensive coordinators and all head coaches go through this situation. We heard it from Joe how many times? What was it, back in '66 or whatever year they were playing Florida State and he went for it on fourth down in his own territory? Young coaches have to go through these things, but that was a heck of a spot to have to go through that.
You're really measured right now. You're trying to measure yourself, and you are still measured by how you're doing against Ohio State, how you're doing against Michigan. And just in this moment, they had built for this, and to let it out like that. But that whole last series wasn't really great, other than the great pass to the tight end.
Yeah,
McSorley was sacked on first down. They threw a low percentage ball to Brandon Polk, and now they were kind of scrambling.
Yeah, it just was so similar to last year. Down in Columbus, we let a team back up off the mat. They score 2 or 3 times in the fourth quarter, yet we have the ball with 2 minutes remaining and a chance to drive down the field.
With Trace at quarterback. And we don't execute. So Ohio State finds some way to stop us when we need points the most. We still haven't figured out. It's as if Urban Meyer's fourth quarter offense has Penn State's fourth quarter defense number, hands down. They can do what they want at will with us, and we freeze up. Let's transition into the fourth quarter defense for Penn State. That young defense looked pretty good for 3 quarters of this thing, and then you just had a variety of missed tackles, guys for Ohio State out in space. And what happened here?
Well, what did we say earlier this year? After every game, there were instances. App State defense kind of fell apart in the fourth quarter. The next couple of games, 3 games really, the defense struggled against the running game at times. But Penn State was so much better than those teams that it was able to pick up the slack. And I think I mentioned it last week. You cannot have those kind of errors against a team as good as Ohio State. What I couldn't quite get is that Ohio State just started going with these short passing games, the short passes, and Penn State could not adjust. When they came, they scored on, what was it, 3 or 4 plays, I think it was, after Penn State went up by 12 points.
Almost with the whole field.
It's like, wow, what are you attempting to do? And then you do it once, and then they come back out, and they hit the short passes again. Where were the adjustments?
They scored from 75 and 96 in a total of 350. So,
well, explain what you're saying there. They had a total of 350 yards.
For a total of 3 minutes and 50 seconds.
But that was also a gigantic portion of their yardage in the game.
Yeah.
Right, and this has been a pattern. You go back to Ohio State, you go back to the Rose Bowl. When they built leads, either they've eased off the gas or just, I think they're continuing to blitz. I think they're continuing to be aggressive, but they're not reacting to the screen pass.
It comes down to me with, you had guys there to make those plays. Every coach knows tackling. Every coach knows, practices tackling. As a former player, how do you make sure those guys make that play when the time comes?
That's a great call, and it's starting to become endemic with what James Franklin's defenses are doing in big games in the fourth quarter. We got to step up and find an answer, a solution. to stopping a team's back up on their own 4-yard line, and they go 96 yards in less than 2 minutes. And to your point about this, that's the second of 2 drives, 8 minutes remaining. I had my my Kevin Costner Moonlight Graham moment. I looked at the scoreboard. There was 8 minutes left, right? And the score, we're up 12 points. And I was in Columbus last year looking at that exact same scoreboard with that 38-20 lead. And I'm like, there's no possible way this can happen at a defense against the same opponent with a lot at stake to do the same exact thing, which is fold and let the team go the length of the field in no time flat.
Well, they need leaders to step up on defense this year especially. And they lost so much leadership from last year's team. And I think a lot of those defensive players learned from that Ohio State game last year. But that's going to be the key. With this bye week, I don't know how you do it, but you have so many new faces out there. They have to point to certain people and say, we need you to step up as
But you know
leaders.
what? At the end of the day, I still think if everybody would have said they're going to score 27 points, Penn State's saying they're winning that game.
Yeah.
27 points should have been enough.
Man, lots to unpack in this game, and we got a lot more coming up, including this.
You guys thought I was a psychopath in the past? You have no idea.
Coming up next, James Franklin fired up, as you can expect. What does all that mean? Nittany Nation Overtime just getting started.
The NitWits are brought to you by Irwin Financial, Raymond James, an independent firm and a firm foundation for your financial future. By Coldwell Banker, no one will work harder to sell your home. By Courtesy Motor Sales of Altoona, where courtesy means a great deal. By The Allegro, where fine cuisine is a way of life. By Health South, your rehab choice. Health South Altoona, ask for us by name. By Monarch Cleaners, for all your dry cleaning, uniform, and mat rentals.
You're watching Nittany Nation Overtime.
You guys thought I was a psychopath in the past? You have no idea. No one's happy with this. Our fans aren't happy. I'm not happy with it. I could sit here and say it's a moral victory and all that because we lost to a higher-ranked team by 1 point. No, it's not good enough. Just so everybody's crystal clear, we're a great program. We lost to an elite program, and we're that close. We have gotten comfortable being great. We will no longer be comfortable being great.
Man, welcome back to Nittany Nation Overtime. That's Coach James Franklin after the 27-26 loss to Ohio State, and he sounded off. Guys, I'll go with you, Mark. Have you seen him at that, I guess, level before?
No, I haven't seen that after a game. But did you notice in there what he did? He looked up.
Yeah.
You know who was standing up there?
I don't know.
The recruits.
There's over 120 recruits. So he was getting the message across that this is not acceptable to lose to Ohio State to all of these recruits who were there, which I think was a pretty smart thing to do. I mean, he doesn't do anything. While it seemed like he was just kind of going off, he went in there, I think, knowing that he wanted to let everybody know. And I think there was a message for fans in there, too, because he obviously, I mean, we'll get into it, realized that fans were upset about the way that Penn State lost that game. And I think he hit on the right messages. People may not like the way he delivered it, but he said, listen, we have to reassess. We're at this level. We're great, or what I would say is really good. If we want to be elite, we have to pay attention to every single detail. And I thought, to me, I was perfectly fine with that.
Well, he coaches on emotion, so you got real raw emotion from a real raw emotional loss. The only thing I didn't like about it was I think that he began to get into some of the player tendencies, habits,
academic,
class here, cell phone use there. And I think in saying he's taking the blame, it starts with him, then he started spreading it pretty quickly. So I think there's a learning experience for everybody involved.
The passion's evident.
Yeah.
We're all aware. He wants to make clear that, by him defining the program as great and, focusing that towards recruits and people that were in that. It's a pretty bold statement. He wants to see the program get to that next level. Well, as we talked about, the Alabamas, Georgias of the world. And a coach wearing his emotions on the sleeve from time to time is something that may not, it strikes a chord with a fan base that isn't typically used to seeing that, but that's the new world order with the way college football is these days.
And along those same lines, after the game, Franklin's hot, okay? He's walking off the field. Go ahead and bring in that video so we can show people, I guess, what happened. He's walking off the field, kind of gets into a little bit of a shouting match, or has some words exchanged with a fan. What do you make of this? I mean,
well, he has welcomed all the fans in. He's the guy that has embraced all this. He's up practically exhorting the fans during the game.
Yeah.
So this is sort of part of the culture he's built. I don't think it was a great situation. I think he was wrong to engage the fan. I think he was right to apologize pretty quickly.
Yeah, if you're going to ask your players to be poised under pressure, you have to be poised under pressure. With that said, again, I could kind of understand, because that was a very difficult loss for him and for the entire team, and he's trying to process it, and some kids chirping at him, and the kid didn't even say anything terrible. It was just like, coach should have done a different, as if he wasn't considering that at the time.
Yeah.
But if you're going to ask your players to be poised under pressure, you have to be poised under pressure.
Leadership starts at the top. The example you set for your players, tune that kind of stuff out. And it wasn't any derogatory fame. A fan had a comment to make. It was at a time where James Franklin probably wasn't the most approachable. He apologized for it immediately, which I thought was a pretty classy move on his part. But we're better than that. You shouldn't let those type of things get under your skin and rattle you.
I just try to think on how I would react, and I have no idea. I mean, I'm a younger guy. I'm also an emotional guy.
Well, should we start ripping you?
I mean,
come on, Peter, you got to do a better job in the show. Pick it up.
When you're being paid to be the face of the university,
then that's the difference.
You can't have rabbit ears. You just got to keep going to the locker room and deliver your message there.
And I'll say what, to his credit, when he gets questions, whether it's from the media or on his radio show or whatever, he usually handles those things very smoothly. I saw him at a Big Ten Media Day where somebody brought up the scandal this year, and he basically was just, I appreciate you bringing it up, and kind of just blew it off. But he lost his cool, and again, you got to be, you got to expect the same from yourself as you do from your players.
All right, coming up next, the fourth down call wasn't really the only blunder last night. We go more into this game and take a look at some of those mishaps next.
The NitWits are brought to you by Reed and Solaney Orthodontics. Doctors Reed and Solaney provide orthodontics for children and adults. By W.S. Lee & Sons, your local food distributor. Go Penn State. By Allegheny Street Cigar. Allegheny Street Cigar, Blair County's only cigar lounge. By McAleer's Plumbing, specializing in plumbing, heating, and air conditioning, serving our community since 1886. By Shields Awards and the Sports Shop. We have a fantastic selection of awards, apparel, and memorabilia at great prices. By Freedom RV. Get ready to tailgate this Penn State football season with Freedom RV Rentals.
You're watching Nittany Nation Overtime.
Welcome back to Nittany Nation Overtime. Still here with the Nitwits, and you cannot put all the blame on that fourth down call in that game. There were plenty of other mistakes or mishaps that happened that kind of led to the 1-point defeat. Bill, let's go with you. You saw some older wide receivers with some drop passes.
Yeah, the recurring theme here in 2018 thus far is there are catchable passes that guys aren't hanging on to. And I know the weather was a factor in Pittsburgh earlier in September, but last night there were some balls. McSorley continues to put the ball on the money, and these guys are just, it's bouncing off their hands. I don't have an answer for why these guys aren't making more catches than they are. These are accurate passes. We're seeing highlights here of balls that should have been caught.
Great balls.
Well, they're veteran guys too. I mean, I think that's the biggest issue. You understand this out of younger players, but a guy like Jawan Johnson, this has become a pattern now. It has become the exception when he starts to hold on. And the maddening thing for the coaching staff is he makes an unbelievable one-handed catch, and then he can't grab the other ones. And, the one thing I will say about this is that they have some really talented true freshman receivers. During this bye week, they are going to have to make some tough decisions about who they want to commit to moving forward. And I hate to see them give up on the older players, but sooner or later, if it's costing you games, you got to change.
Right, but you still can redshirt a couple of those guys and even play.
That's the decisions you have to make.
Yeah. I didn't like the way Tommy Stevens was all of a sudden used in the biggest game of the season. I would like to have seen.
Right off the bat.
They said that he was healthy enough to play a week or two ago to try to spring some surprises. I just didn't think that worked out that well. The other thing, hey, Sanders can't fumble there. I mean,
Yes.
that really was a big play in the game. You had a lot of momentum. You had a chance to go down and at least get maybe another field goal, go up 16-0, 20-0 at half.
And you can't have that much of an offensive disparity in the first half. Penn State outgained them by how many yards and leads by 6, was it, at the half?
Yeah.
You got to put more points on the board there.
It goes back to that idea of taking the next step, being an elite program, whatever you want to do. It comes back to, maybe a few drop passes, holding onto the ball when you're, backed up near your own end zone. And these are things we've heard before, right?
Right.
Yeah. Well, your special teams last night were just very pedestrian.
Yeah.
You got nothing out of your return game. They did have a tremendous play to KJ Hamler, we should mention.
One play, this is one game where Blake Gillikin was outperformed by an opposing punter. I think he'll be back and he'll be fine, but that was really odd to see. I mean, that never happened.
Well, he had a great pooch at the end.
That was great, but overall, if you look at the numbers overall.
Yeah, the other guy
touchdown drive by Ohio State. All right, so we've had enough negative Nancy. We're going to take a look at some of our positives coming up next after the break. And what does this mean going forward? Can Penn State still make a run? Next.
The NitWits are brought to you by Jethro's, serving ribs, steaks, Italian specialties, and the famous Prospector salad since 1983. Takeouts, delivery, and catering. By Lucky's Beer Distributor. Let Lucky's Beer get you ready for PSU game day. By Remax Results Realty Group. Committed to a culture of professionalism, productivity, and exceptional service. By EasyToUse.com. Your Yellow Pages connection in print and online. By Lions 247 with Fight on State, your online home for Penn State football and recruiting coverage. And by the Altoona Mirror, featuring Penn State Game Day every Friday and Penn State Extra every Sunday.
You're watching Nittany Nation Overtime.
So here we are with our latest Nitwit of the Week, Mark Brennan. There you go.
Yeah, I picked the Buckeyes. Take no joy in the difficulty for Penn State fans, but I'm going to cede my time to Bill here to give us a little heads up on your book. This has been out for a bit.
When the Lions Roared has been out for about a year now. It's got 25-star reviews out on Amazon. Nice. People can pick it up. The website, BillContzPSU.com, is one way to access the book and all the data that's included in it. But Amazon, Barnes & Noble, any place. I'm thrilled with how it's been embraced. I think it's a great story. I think it's a great Christmas gift for you folks out there thinking
we're getting
about
close
this. It's already
to that
October.
time, aren't
I
we?
read the book. There are things in it I didn't know, some backstories. It was very interesting. Congratulations on it, Bill.
Positives, Neil?
Well, Hamler, that was a tremendous play. And maybe the realization, the declaration post-game that there is a little gap that they have to address.
I like the way the defensive line played for most of the game. Not the entire game, but that's a unit that really struggled at times. And to play that well against that veteran offensive line, I thought was a really good thing.
It seems just so strange getting a 1-point loss.
I'll throw another positive. The tight end, Fryer, played a tremendous game. I think he's really going to be good.
All right,
he is good now.
Really, I mean, and that was a position that had a lot of question marks going into the year, and this kid just comes out of nowhere. And he wasn't playing a ton at the very beginning, and he has solidified himself at that tight end position.
2 great catches, 3 catches for the game.
Yep. Neil, we have a special guest coming on next week.
Bye week,
right? Well,
Sandy Barber is going to be our guest. She's come down here to Altoona, or we've filmed up there, and she's been very gracious with her time, and we appreciate she'll be here during the bye week.
I am so excited to be able to get her perspective kind of on where Penn State is as a university as a whole right now.
Well, and James Franklin's comments about the football program.
Of course, this is Nittany Nation Overtime. Folks, Bill, go get yourselves a copy of his book. It's been fun. We'll be back next week.
The NitWits are brought to you by Irwin Financial, Raymond James, an independent firm and a firm foundation for your financial future. By Coldwell Banker, no one will work harder to sell your home. By Courtesy Motor Sales of Altoona, where courtesy means a great deal. By The Allegro, where fine cuisine is a way of life. By Health South, your rehab choice. Health South Altoona, ask for us by name. By Monarch Cleaners, for all your dry cleaning, uniform, and mat rentals. By Reed and Solaney Orthodontics. Doctors Reed and Solaney provide orthodontics for children and adults. By W.S. Lee & Sons, your local food distributor. Go Penn State. By Allegheny Street Cigar. Allegheny Street Cigar, Blair County's only cigar lounge. By McAleer's Plumbing, specializing in plumbing, heating, and air conditioning, serving our community since 1886. By Shields Awards and The Sports Shop. We have a fantastic selection of awards, apparel, and memorabilia at great prices. By Freedom RV. Get ready to tailgate this Penn State football season with Freedom RV Rentals. By Jethro's, serving ribs, steaks, Italian specialties, and the famous Prospector Salad since 1983. Takeouts, delivery, and catering. By Lucky's Beer Distributor. Let Lucky's Beer get you ready for PSU game day. By Remax Results Realty Group, committed to a culture of professionalism, productivity, and exceptional service. By EasyToUse.com, your Yellow Pages connection in print and online. By Lions 247 with Fight on State, your online home for Penn State football and recruiting coverage. And by the Altoona Mirror, featuring Penn State Game Day every Friday and Penn State Extra every Sunday. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.